Hello everyone, this is Jade Everidge and I'm going to be covering Nike Women in a public relations case study for the Social Media Theory and Practice online class in Mass Communications 343. So let's get started. So let's talk a little bit more about what Nike Women is. It is a subdivision of Nike as a whole, and it actually specializes in appealing to female athletes from all over the world. Using the hashtag Nike Women as the subdivision to Nike, it seeks to ensure that we run, train, and live in style. It actually operates within a doctrine that if you have a body, you are an athlete. It also has more quotes like "we are all beginners at the beginning" that actually symbolize a universal look on how people can be athletic and be who they want to be no matter their gender. So its mission that it's posted on its Facebook is that from your first squat to your longest run and everywhere in between, we're here to bring you innovative products, fitness tips, and style inspiration. What is actually really interesting is on Nike Women's website, it doesn't have its own mission posted. So it heavily relies on its social media to let its followers know what its mission is and how it plans to operate. So now we're going to go into a social media audit, which will look at Nike Women's Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to see if it adheres to its mission that is providing to us. So first, we're going to talk about Instagram. It has a very large community size, actually the largest out of all three of their platforms at 7.2 million followers. Its usual frequency of posting averages around 2 times per week, and its message types includes news of female athletic accomplishments, usually adhering to the style of storytelling and not just reporting, including captions that are in fact promotional underneath them that serve to be advertismal. The typical forms of content include still photos and videos. And what's really interesting about the still photos is they use Shopify. And these photos usually have links to prices and the names of the apparel items or shoes that women are wearing in their pictures. And it's providing a clickable link to that specific piece of apparel for shopping. So delving deeper into the characteristic of Nike Women's Instagram, this feature is only available on the mobile application. I actually attempted it a few times, actually trying to go on my desktop and click on the same post that had the Shopify function. However, it wasn't shown on the screen. So this leads to the primary purpose of this platform, which is to promote product sales and drive people to the organization's website. And also, Nike Women actually responds as a typical customer service provider. However, instead of continuing the conversation on Instagram, it asks followers to send them messages on Twitter, direct message, or Facebook. This is actually very interesting considering that Instagram also has a direct message option. So why is this decision being made? I came down to 2 inferences. One could be due to management of inquiries. Since Nike is such a large corporation, I'm pretty sure they receive a lot of inquiries from millions of people. So managing that could be very problematic. So that's probably what they're trying to do. Or they're trying to adhere to a social media plan that is set. For example, they probably want their Instagram to function in a certain way versus their Twitter and their Facebook. So for these reasons, I'm actually going to give them a rating on engagement. That's going to go into the next slide. Now, because Nike is so big, I'm going to have to give them a 7, noting that the 7 dwarfs are on this slide for your entertainment. So I'm giving them the 7, not only because they're very large, and I consider them as a very reputable corporation. They actually are very punctual and personable in their responses. However, their unwillingness to continue the communication on its Instagram page could be potentially very harmful, because those who are asking them questions could see it as they're, pushing them off, or they might not have the opportunity to actually have a conversation with whoever is running the Nike Women's Instagram page. So next, let's talk about Nike Women's Twitter. Its community size is the second, it's actually the third largest out of the three, at 505.3k followers. However, its frequency of posting is actually very staccato. It's averaging at nearly one post per month. But what is also interesting about this posting frequency is that Nike Women usually retweets content from main Nike pages. Nike Women rarely tweets any original posts, which are created every few months. So it's appropriate to infer that the primary purpose for this platform is to drive people to the organization's other pages that post content relative to that of Nike Women's mission. For example, it also includes featuring sportswomen who wear the product, or any promotional ads or announcements for apparel or shoes that are coming out. In addition to the message type, there is also news from Nike and promotional links that are shared. And despite its rare posting frequency and promotional feature content, Nike Women's Twitter actively engages with this audience, probably the most, which I'll talk to you about in the next few slides, especially when it's tagged in a post. Nike Women actually gets very creative with its responses on Twitter by sending GIFs that relate to women in fitness, and in addition to that, it also responds to inquiries from other countries in the respective languages. This actually shows a level of cultural mindfulness that is known to be a good characteristics to have in the public relations world. And Nike Women is also an very active customer service provider in this platform. It usually goes the extra mile by offering direct communication through direct messaging and comments links for more info on job opportunities, marathons, and shoe trials, my apologies. So that's actually a lot of proof that they're doing well. So for those reasons, I'm actually going to give them the 10. Congratulations, Nike Women's Twitter. Mostly because it actually encourages the helix form of communication, where they don't just respond, they actually seek to create a relationship with its followers. I have seen multiple conversations that would show an inquiry and Nike Women responding to that, asking a runner, for example, how they're doing, and the runner would respond. So that communication would continue, which would then show that Nike Women has extremely quick and efficient responses. They usually respond within 3 or 4 minutes when I was analyzing their conversations on this platform. And they continued once again an ongoing conversation by tweeting back and forth. So next we're going to talk about Nike Women's Facebook. Nike Women's Facebook actually has the second largest community out of all three platforms. They're at around 5.3 million followers and around 5.4 people that actually like the page. It actually functions much like its Twitter page. Nike Women doesn't post as frequently as its Instagram page. It usually shares a lot of posts from the main Nike page on Facebook, either once or twice every few months. Well, it posts original content in extremely rare cases, and mostly it's updates on their background photo or their profile picture. So I would also infer that the primary purpose of this platform mirrors that of Nike Women's Twitter account, which is to direct people to the organization's website for shopping. But one facet that Nike Women's Facebook differs from Twitter is that its message types are solely promotional. I've been able to scroll through a few of its posts, and most of it are videos and ads, either announcing a new shoe or functioning as if it is a commercial that you would see on TV. Although the content is shared from other Nike accounts, there are no features on female athletes or still photos that serve as a non-promotional purpose. So after analyzing Nike Women's Facebook conversations, I found that Nike Women is not very creative with its replies on its platform. It does its functional job by giving typical customer service responses, but I also found it interesting that it doesn't really engage in political conversation in relation to women and athletics in our country, since Facebook has grown to be a place for that type of discussion. And for those reasons, I believe that Nike Women's Facebook social media platform deserves a rating of 7 on engagement. And even though Nike Women does respond within reasonable time, it's very robotic and actually misses out on very interesting opportunities for true engagement and discussion. So now I'm going to touch on all 3 social media platforms operated by Nike Women regarding to visual branding. So across all 3 platforms, the logo is usually the profile picture with a background picture of a woman wearing Nike that was shown on the first slide, which is consistent through all platforms. However, I would say that Instagram stands out the most when it comes to visual branding and being appealing to the audience. While Facebook and Twitter share the content of the main Nike page, Nike Women's original content on Instagram is both satisfying and representative of its objective. It's usually very difficult to capture still photos that show movement. So Nike Women's Instagram does this successfully by capturing angles that display the power of female athletic bodies. So therefore, this is reflective of its mission. In addition, Nike Women's still photos on Instagram works to highlight the complexions of diverse women while accentuating the vibrant colors of the apparel. So it's adhering to a bit of diversity, and while also showing off how good their models look in their clothes. And Nike Women's Facebook videos are usually shown as primarily commercials and ads that display the typical visual qualities of good ads that you would see on television, and its Twitter page does the same. However, what is interesting about these 2 platforms is that its visual content is reliant upon storytelling. Nike Women's content on these 2 platforms function by stimulating emotions aroused by the story of the human condition, which is a facet of newsworthiness in journalism. So this is actually a good way to get your followers interested in the culture of Nike and what they're looking for as far as appealing to certain audiences and how they respond. So now, after doing our social media audit of Nike Women's Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and talking a little bit about their visual branding, I'm going to go into some policy recommendations, because although Nike Women is very large and continues to grow and generate audiences from around the world, it still needs some improvement on engagement throughout its social media platforms. So the first suggestion for its improvement is to make original content. We as young consumers know that when you are trying to sell us something, we will know that. This is shown through promotional advertisement, since it is the most prominent form of content being shared from another account. Since Nike Women is all about empowering women, I believe that Nike Women needs to enact that in its original content. In other words, don't sell empowerment, instead encourage empowerment through building relationships and engagement on its social media sites. This can be done by posting more female athlete features or sneak peeks into how Nike Women works and what motivates whoever is operating within that platform to do what it do what they want to do, and engaging in conversations on social media that actually adhere to the values of the power that is within women in athletics. And this suggestion actually connects to the next, which is exercising its right to political speech. In public relations, there is a great fear that for-profit entities are not protected under the First Amendment, as it is easy to assume that anything that they say is in fact commercial speech. But on the other hand, commercial speech can actually also be tied into political speech. So this is actually a reference to the case in the 90s of Nike versus Kasky, when Kasky sued Nike, saying that they were miscommunicating their practices, their labor practices overseas. So there was a confusion between political speech and commercial speech. And this can actually be helped by communicating this through both original content and comments. Since political speech is more protected than commercial speech, Nike women can actually focus on empowering female athletes, and there are plenty of exigencies that allow for Nike to engage in this type of discussion. So here we are at the very end of my presentation. Nike Women's Instagram has been able to come out on top of its social media audit. However, the biggest pictures to remember from this presentation is that engaging with the audience and communication is cyclical when it comes to the social media presence and an interpersonal presence. So this actually needs to be continued, and that Nike Women has to find a way to stand out despite its connection to the main Nike HQ. Commercials about the announcement of the Nike hijab and others are great for storytelling and political speech, but it's not enough unless you do more work in the comments section. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you got a lot out of this presentation.